Hola mi gente and welcome back to the channel. This is your boy Sean from We Are Investing, a channel that is dedicated in investing and personal finance. On this video today, I am going to give you guys a video on AMC stock. We're going to take a look at the technicals real quick, but that's not what's important here because we are going to talk about the shares for AMC. And this is important because it deals with the short squeeze and it also deals with those synthetic shares. Now, on June 9th, Matt Kohrs, who has 304,000 subscribers, that is a ton. And on this video alone, he had more than 250,000 views. He had 263,668 views on this video that was titled The AMC Squeeze, the proof you've been looking for. Rocket ship, rocket ship, rocket ship. Now, in this video, he goes over this calculation here that you can see on the screen that reports that the percent of stock being traded is more than 100% and not by a little bit. The percentage he comes up with is 174%. Now, if this is true, this is huge news for AMC stock, and it can absolutely send it blasting to the moon if it is true. The purpose of this video is we are going to fact check this. We are going to do our own due diligence. I am going to show you where all of these numbers are coming from, and we will come up with our own percent of stock being traded. Now, Matt Kohrs has a ton of people following his channel. I believe that he spends time in filming his videos. He fact checks what he puts out there. This isn't saying whether a stock is going to go up or down. This is just pure data. So let's watch a clip from his video, and then we'll proceed by getting into the math of all of this stuff. And then we will end the video with a quick view of the chart, the technical analysis for AMC. And it looks like the stock is beginning to break out, and there could be some swings coming up that you can make some good money on with AMC stock based on the technicals for the share.
More than 80% of AMC shares are held by a broad base of retail investors with an average holding of 120 shares. Matt, why does this matter? Well, let's hop into a little bit of math, and just so you know, this isn't my own math, but I want to share it with you. So right here, if you look at it, AMC at the current price, total shares 502 million. Well, when you look at retail, major holders and insiders, short interest and insiders, looks like we have 174% ownership. You know me, I'm just a data guy. I just want to present the data to you, and I would appreciate it. You could just draw your own conclusions. But man, I think it's a bit weird that we have 174% ownership. Absolutely crazy. And
so like he said in his video, he is not the one that came up with this calculation. He is not saying whether the calculation is right or wrong, but by providing it in his video with over 300,000 subscribers and over 200,000 people watching this video, and he is getting paid a ton by YouTube to upload these videos, the least he can do is fact check the stuff he is putting on his videos and on his channel. It doesn't take much time to do your own due diligence when it comes to these numbers, and there are some glaring mistakes that I think he knew right off the bat, but he still decided to provide this information to you guys because it looks really good for AMC stock. Now, I'm not trying to say AMC is not going to squeeze, but I just want to look at the data and bring it up to you guys, and I'm going to show you each step of the way so I'm not bullshitting you by any means. So without further ado, let's dive into the data. All right, here we are. This is the holy grail of this video. It is titled AMC, the proof you've been looking for. Because like I said, if this is true, this is massive for AMC stock. And also we are going to come up with our own number. So if you look at the first item on the list, it is total shares. Now on Matt's video, he had around 502 million shares outstanding. Now I know exactly where that number came from. It came from the press release that was reported on June 2nd. As of June 2nd, there were around 502 million shares outstanding. But the interesting thing here is that on June 3rd, AMC actually had a offering where they offered almost 12 million shares. So that brings your current shares outstanding to 513 million just about. Now, the information that was provided in that press release by AMC was correct, but the day later they did another offering. So now your current shares outstanding is 513 million. That's not a huge difference, but it is a difference and it definitely impacts the numbers. The second thing here, and this is a huge miscalculation that was provided in his channel, is the amount of shares owned by retail. They have 492 million shares outstanding. Now, if you take a look at my footnote here, the data appears to use language from press release stating count as 4.1 million shareholders at an average of 120 shares per shareholder. If you do that math, that calculation, that's going to get you that 492 million. But the issue here is that not all shares that are voting are actual retail. Institutional ownership does get to vote. They do have voting rights, so that those shares are counted into the mix. The better calculation would be that in that press release, they said over 80% is owned by retail. And that is 80% off of that 501 million shares outstanding. Because we know in the offering that they added additional 11 something million shares. Those are institutional buyers and they are not retail. So we can exclude that from the calculation. If you take 80% of 502 million just about, you are going to get a shares owned by retail of just over 401 million shares. So there is a difference. I have a difference of negative 90 million shares because I know 100% 492 million shares owned by retail is incorrect, because that is saying that all votes that are being cast in this shareholder count, the 4.1 million shareholders at 120 million shares, is all retail. And we know that that is not right, because institutional ownership also gets to vote in shares. That is how some big institutions are able to control the board. They get so many shares that they get voting rights, and then they select the people that they want on the board, and they basically take over a company. That is not going to happen with AMC, but that's just an example that institutional shares also get to vote in these shareholder meetings. The next thing that we're going to look at is the row major holders and insiders. Now, I just want to point out, for whatever reason, they have insiders doubled up. Major holders are your institutional investors, and insiders are people that actually work at the company, your management, your shareholders that are people that are actual employees of AMC. Now, the major holders and insiders, they have 115 million. I have 119 million just for the institutional ownership. Now, I am coming up with that number by Yahoo Finance, who has the institutional ownership at 23.35%. And that is based off of the shares outstanding of 513 million, which is also provided in Yahoo Finance. And that jives up with the most recent offering in AMC that took place one day after the press release that stated the shares outstanding was close to 502 million. So that is going to increase. That is a difference of 4.5 million just about from the numbers that were provided in his video. Now, the short interest he has at 100 million shares. Now, this is a huge mistake by him. He should have known this from the second he saw this, because every single day he covers the shares shorted for AMC stock, and he should know how many shares are actually being shorted right now for this calculation. This is a huge mistake. It is a rookie mistake, if you ask me. Now, the way that they are coming up with 100 million shares, if you look at the short interest provided by Yahoo Finance, the short percent of float is 22.85%. The share short is 102 million. But this data is only valid as of May 28th, 2021. This is the data that was provided by FINRA. Now, this data does not come out on May 28th, 2021, but rather if you look at the FINRA schedule for the short interest, you can see that the data is from May 28th, and then it is reported on June 9th. The next round of data will be good from June 15th, and then it will be reported on June 24th. But if you take a look at Ortex, which is always provided in his videos, Ortex just basically is a proprietary calculation that calculates the short interest every single day based on the FINRA data. And then they also add in some other variables like the borrow rate, the short volume. There are many calculations, the many variables involved in these calculations for them to get a good estimate on what the actual short interest is on a given day. Now, they are saying that the short interest as of Friday was 60.55 million shares, and that is the value we are going to use in our calculation. Now, the insiders, this is a huge bust as well. They have 166 million, just about. I have 1.7 million shares. Now, their data, I don't know exactly where it's coming from, but if you look at Fintel and insider ownership, it's around that number. Fintel has the insider shares at 175 million, the insider ownership at 38.94%, which we know is incorrect because the CEO of AMC says that retails own over 80%. And if you just do some due diligence and you dive into these numbers, you can see that these numbers are super outdated. The first flag here is that the shares outstanding at 450 million. We know it is well above 500 million now. And also, when you dive even further into this data and you look at who owns the stock, you can see that Wanda is still listed at 152 million shares and Murdoch Capital is still listed at 12.7 million shares. We know that both of these institutional ownerships no longer exist. They sold out 100% of their stake in AMC. And because they sold out of their entire stake, if you add both of those positions together, you're going to get a value of close to 165 million shares. And that is very close to the difference I'm getting in their insider total. And they also doubled up insiders twice, but they have a different value. So I don't know what's going on there, but definitely this is incorrect. The insider ownership is not 165 million shares of AMC. It's closer to 1.6 million. Now, when doing my due diligence and looking at the institutional ownership for AMC, I found something that is extremely interesting, and that is that Citadel actually has been making a decent amount of money off of AMC stock recently. If you take a look at the institutional ownership and you scroll down just a little bit based on the 13F filing, you can see that Citadel Advisors LLC does have stake in AMC. They bought it at an average share price of $6.17, and they bought 725,000 shares. If you do the math off of that based on what the current share price is for AMC stock, you can see that they turned 4.5 million to over $35 million based off of this most recent move. Now, if they have shorts, this could be a complete hedge and then they would not make any money, or they still could have lost money based on their position size, which I do not know if they have shorts or what is going on with Citadel. Now, there are many hedge funds out there. Citadel is just one of them. There are definitely 100% hedge funds that are short AMC. We know that is true 100%. But when you talk about AMC and GameStop, Citadel is always included in the topic of conversation. And it's just funny that Citadel actually has shares in AMC and they made money off of their common shares. The reason why I'm bringing this up is because I've done videos on Clover Health and people want to talk about how Citadel has shares in Clover Health, but actually they have more shares in AMC. All right, so let's sum up all of this data. If you take a look at this quantity, you can see that the total shares that they have calculated is 873 million shares. In our calculation, we have 583 million shares. Now, that is a big difference. That is a difference of 289 million shares, which is quite a lot. Now, the percent of stock being traded in his calculation is 174%, meaning that there is an additional 74% they are trading more shares than there is actually out there in the market. In our calculation, it is 114%. That is still more than is out there in the market, but is nowhere close to that 174%. Now, this has a big implications on how big the short squeeze can be if it is a true short squeeze. Retail investors can still pile into the stock. The market cap for AMC is not huge, that you get a couple $100 million, $1 billion, and that is drastically going to change the share price for AMC. And there is definitely, I do believe there are naked shorts for AMC. The question isn't whether there are naked shorts or not. The question is how many are there, because that's going to impact the magnitude of a potential short squeeze. So unfortunately, when I look at this data, I see a lot of glaring errors that are something that should have been picked up from the get-go. If you cover this stock every single day, I expect you to at least know what the short interest, because this is a data point that changes every single day and you provide coverage to over 200,000 subscribers. But the information that he presented is incorrect. I showed you guys on this video all of the due diligence that we did. And if you have any questions and want links to all of this information, I will provide it down in the video description. All right, before we wrap up the video, let's do a quick technical analysis when it comes to AMC stock. Right now, you're looking at the 10-day, 30-minute chart. Each candle is 30 minutes, and this spans 10 days. And as you can see here by this yellow line, we had a descending triangle, and we had a point of convergence where it broke out. Now, you can also argue that we had a rising wedge because we had higher lows and lower highs, and we hit a point of convergence at around the same price. So this happened on Friday, and it looks like we broke trend and we broke out. Now that is good because when you trade breakouts, you want the breakout to happen before you get into it. I know that that might sound not the way to do it, but it is the way to do it because typically in a descending triangle, you would have a breakdown. So you just want to have that level of confirmation before you start piling in. You just need to identify that point of convergence, keep your eye on it, and as soon as it breaks trend, that is your indication that now is the time to get into a trade and play the breakout and use that risk to reward ratio that you're comfortable with, risk a little bit to play the massive upside that usually happens with breakouts. Now, if we take a look at AMC, typically when something breaks out, it doesn't just go straight up. You're going to get a couple candles, you're going to get some volatility initially, and then it's going to pull back a little bit, and that is completely healthy. But if you broke trend, then that is a confirmation or somewhat of a confirmation that a reversal is happening and you can buy into the dips and ride it back up if that is what's going to happen. But always a trade can go against you rather quickly. So you just want to identify your risk to reward ratio and put your stop loss in so that you are not unprotected in your trade. But anyways, mi gente, that wraps up for this video. I thank you so much for your time. If you like this video and the content that I am providing, please consider hitting that subscribe button, ringing that bell, and smashing that like button. Also, please consider joining the Patreon so you can join the community. You get access to a Discord server of over 500 investors. We have video chats in the Discord, and we talk about stocks and cryptos every single day. It's a community where we learn together, grow together, and make money together. And that is the one reason why I made this video and why I call it We Are Investing and not I Am Investing, because I firmly believe in surrounding yourself with people who are like-minded, and that is the best way to grow as an investor and trader. But I'll catch you on the flip side. It's been real. It's been fun. It's been real fun. And this is We Are Investing, and together we are invincible. Dale!